Cafe here still at Cairns City Library, National Important Camp of the critically endangered spectacled flying fox, just documenting this morning's dispersal. I haven't calculated exactly how many days they've been doing it, but it's about 450 days consecutive every morning. They did start some banging a little while ago and some more foot stomping, plus the powerful flashlights, of course. But the flying foxes are still here in big numbers, as you can hear. Including many pups and many mums looking for their pups. This dispersal has been going for an hour so far, since almost an hour. Began at 4:02, it's now 4:55. Should also remember that it's not just disturbing the flying fox, but there are other fauna that use these trees. Right here we can see a Torres Strait pigeon. Last year a bird expert estimated there were about 20 nests of Torres Strait pigeons in these trees. We also know there's been a recurring nest of a double-eyed fig parrot in T5. T5, of course, they want to cut down, saying that it's sick, whereas in fact it's quite vigorous, and some rot that's contained in the middle is not necessarily unusual for a fig tree. Councillor Brett Moller was on the John Mackenzie radio show, saying that it was full of brown tree rot, Felinus noxious, when in fact the head arborist has confirmed on 2 occasions recently that there's no evidence of Felinus noxious. So this is complete misinformation by council. At a meeting we had last Friday, the mayor said on 2 occasions that the tree is dying. At which point the head arborist shook his head and spoke up and said the tree's not dying, it's actually quite healthy. It does have some rot, but this is not necessarily a fatal for the tree. We can probably do more for the tree in terms of best practice management and risk assessment, but we feel the agenda is to destroy this camp in stages. T4 was cut down in 2014. Council said that the roots had accidentally been cut when building the bus shelter. The fact is that they were obliged under the Queensland Heritage Act 1992 to replace that tree, and they never did. And they're saying to us that they will cut down T5 and replace it with another tree, 2 trees in fact, they said. Well, let's not cut it down, but let's just plant a tree where T4 was, or near. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to plant exactly where it was, but there's plenty of space between T3 and T5 to plant another weeping fig, Benjamina, Ficus benjamina. So the argument that people can't sit under the tree, so they have to cut it down, whereupon people wouldn't be able to sit under it anyway. But plant another tree, well, they can plant a tree now. Nothing's stopping them. They've had 7 years to plant a tree if they were sincere. But that's not really the goal of council. The goal of council is to gradually, step by step, destroy this camp. Also, Queensland Department of Environment and Science gave an exemption permit to cut down T5. No opportunity for community consultation. They weren't interested, and in their report they state that T5 is dead. Council say, well, we didn't say that. Well, what did they say in their application that led the Department of Environment and Science to state that the tree is dead? I will go there and show you T5. As you can hear, lots of activity with the spectacled flying foxes in the trees. That's why it's called a nationally important camp, as designated by the federal government, the same federal government that then authorised the dispersal-eviction. It's quite ridiculous, actually. It's because it's the most significant camp in the Cairns region, and there's a strong bond and affinity. So this is T5 that DES, obviously they didn't even bother coming to look at the tree before they gave a permit to cut it down, and stated in their reasons that the tree is dead, not even dying, but that the tree is dead. It actually has vigorous growth and is in good health. It does have some issues, but they're not issues that cannot be resolved. One arborist referred to this outer fence as purely a political fence, having nothing to do with the safety situation of the tree. So we can see plenty of flying foxes coming in out of T5. Just listening for pups in T5. You can see mums with pups on their breasts. Many. Oh, some banging starting down there. Oh, more vigorous banging. Sounds like the dispersal evictioneers are getting desperate. When a mum comes to pick up a pup, it's not something that happens instantaneously. Often she needs to be there some minutes for the pup to actually latch on. So if you've got bright lights, wow, there are hundreds and hundreds of flying foxes flying low. Some of these may be coming in from for example, East Trinity. Many of them are actually leaving the roost. Generally, the ones that come in from East Trinity, for example, are flying much higher above the camp. These ones are flying at the same level as the camp. You can hear that mum calling for her pup. And you can see mum's landing. So, although I couldn't hear pups in the tree when I first arrived here, it's quite obvious that there were pups in the tree, because I can see them being picked up now. It's quite a spectacle. I don't think you can really appreciate it so much on camera, but it's very lively down here, and there are lots of spectacled flying foxes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. In the trees itself, hard to estimate, but I would say at least 300, including pups. How many pups? Possibly 100. That was when I arrived at 3 o'clock this morning. You see many mums with pups on their bellies. Probably most of them, you can tell because they have a yellow spot, which is the yellow collar of the pups. So, because the situation of the critically endangered spectacled flying fox is so precarious, we should really be leaving them alone, allowing them to settle where they will, roost where they will, to maximize the survival of as many pups as possible. And the thing about this camp is that the floor, the ground is relatively clear, so as pups start learning to fly and perhaps fall to the ground, which is very common, as you can imagine, it's easy for the mums to come down and pick them up, relatively easy. Whereas in some situations, the floor of the camp is full of vines and long grass, and in some cases old washing machines and tires and all sorts of things, even though we have some heroic back carers and camp monitors who are constantly cleaning the floor of the camps, but often it makes it hard for mums to retrieve the pups, so we have deaths of pups. But this camp is very accessible to back carers, and also relatively easy for mums to come down and pick up pups that may have fallen or may have landed on the ground while learning to fly. Okay, I'll sign off now so that the video doesn't get too long, and I'll probably start live streaming again a little later this morning. Thanks for your interest, thanks for watching.